from beyond.
You must complete what I could not. Come to Dagobah. The answers you seek are here.
Of the clone army, kept secret from us, Sifo-Dyas did. How this was done, we know not. Yet now, a new piece of the puzzle we have.
It seems he's had some sort of breakdown. He doesn't seem to remember what happened.
Protocol 66 must not be discovered by the Jedi.
Yes, Lord Tyrannus.
Our garrison has been attacked by the Separatists. I'm afraid I'm trapped.
Senator Amidala, you are under arrest for espionage.
You must face the gravest of journeys to Moribond, the ancient homeworld of the Sith.
Jedi.
Down! Thanks. It wasn't you I wanted to save.
There must be 100 droids in that hangar. This is stretching it even for you, sir.
Rex, you're beginning to sound like Obi-Wan.
CT-5555.
No clone uses that number. I am Fives. Call me Fives.
The difference is minimal.
Not to me. And not to any clone.
Hi everyone, and welcome once again to Geekfest Rants. My name is Carlos Barone, and today I have James joining us. Say hi, James.
Hello, hello.
Well, we are once again taking a dive into the Star Wars pool. Specifically, we're dealing with Clone Wars. Now, we've talked about Star Wars in general many, many times in the past, and Clone Wars is one of these shows that we've been following for quite a number of years. It's been going for, I don't know, I guess if you count the movie, it would be like 5 seasons plus the movie, so it's been with us for quite a while, and because this is kind of Lucas's world in terms of, you know, until he decides what to do next, he would give us something, and I guess for the last couple of years, that's what we kind of been feeding off. Now, the thing about Clone Wars was that some people felt, including myself, that it kind of ended a little prematurely. Now, don't get me wrong, 5 seasons is a great track record to have as far as, you know, how long a show lasts. I mean, I don't know about you, James, but, you know, a lot of these shows, you're lucky if they make it past the first season.
Yeah, I think most shows, 5 seasons is about just what you can handle without it falling down, unless it's just some fantastic writers or fantastic cast.
Yeah, and 5 seasons used to be, I'm not sure if it's true anymore, but it used to be the magic number, because that's when you
that
have
was like
5
the
seasons.
syndication magic number, right?
Well, it's because of, the syndication thing. And, you know, with about 20 episodes a season times 5, that's 100 episodes. There was some kind of rule. I don't know if it was an FCC thing or a Hollywood thing that once you have your 100 episode, you can now syndicate a series. I don't know if that's true anymore.
It was probably a contract thing. Yeah. After you put in enough.
But I mean, I remember other shows or other actors who would talk about that in the past and say, oh, we were trying to get to that magical 100 episode because that's when the syndication checks start rolling in and this and that. Again, I don't know if it applies to cartoons or Lucas or whatever, you know, but I know that that's a goal. And they kind of treated it that way in terms of, you know, the original plan. I remember when they were first unveiling the Clone Wars, it was that they wanted to do 100 episodes. I think that was the plan originally.
I remember hearing that. And I also remember hearing about it with the live episodes that were rumored. They were going to have 100 episodes written in the can before they sold it to anybody.
Yeah.
Well, that's a lot of stuff to be putting out there sight unseen.
Or
no
kidding.
Be creating sight unseen.
Yeah. Now, along the line, as the show progressed, I remember in some of the conventions I went to, they would ask Dave Filoni, the supervising director, they would say, how we doing, Dave? Are we still looking to wrap it up after 5? And he would always, after a while, start saying, you know what? As long as you guys keep watching, we'll keep making them. So the show got into this mode of, unless something dramatically happened, I guess with the ratings or something, they were going to just keep going. And that's in the manner that apparently they kept working. They were always seemed to be working maybe 2, almost 3 seasons in advance. So while we're watching certain episodes, let's say season 3, they are already, wrapping up editing season 4, and they're already shooting season 5, and they're already writing scripts for season 6. They were always really ahead of time. And this is something I guess also has to do with the fact that they're dealing with cartoons, animation. Because animation takes so long, that's how much you need to pre-produce all these shows.
Yeah, with voices, and they send things to one of the Asian markets that they were actually had a...
Yeah, I think they're in Singapore.
Yeah, they had a studio, so that's probably, that's why they have... Same thing with The Simpsons and all these other big budget. Right. They have to be almost a year ahead of time.
Right. And along the way, we would hear about certain storylines that it's like, oh, yeah, we're working on an episode that has to do with this character or that character, but that's not until, a year from now or something like that. So little by little, as we approach this 100-episode landmark, we would start worrying about, okay, well, what's going to happen next? Are they going to continue or not? And everything seemed to be progressing into they're continuing, they're going to keep going with this. And then once the whole Disney buyout happened, everything kind of started to slow down. And, they did give us a conclusion to at least the Ahsoka character, in which they were able to wrap her up in a pretty acceptable manner as far as I'm concerned. And they actually went past, I think they actually got to like episode 107 or 108. They went a little past 100 to complete the 5th season. However, all of us knew from interviews and from, commentaries and stuff like that they had already done a lot of work on season 6 and pre-written stuff for 7 and yada, yada, yada. So the question then became, a little over a year ago is, well, what's going to happen to all those episodes that they were so close to finishing? And now, what's going to happen? Are they going to put them for sale? Are they going to air them? What's the deal? And it took us almost a year for them to finally let us know that they were going to throw them on Netflix. There were rumors that they were going to go on Apple TV. They were going to go on Disney DX.
At one point, we were trying to get you access to a German television channel through some of our nefarious means, and we were trying to figure that out online, and we didn't have to.
Right, because they actually got access to it first for some weird reason. German channel, some cable channel, RS, something. They apparently aired them 2 or 3 weeks before we got to watch them on Netflix. Now, don't get me wrong, we did have access to these channels. We were able to find links that got us somewhere, and you could theoretically sit down and watch them, but I wanted to watch them in a as good manner as possible. If they weren't going to sell them on Blu-ray, off the bat, and they were going to air them on TV, lucky for me, I already had Netflix, so I was able to watch them. Now let's talk a little bit about these episodes. This is really, they call it, it's categorized as season 6, but it's only about half as big as a season. So it's 13 episodes that compile season 6, and they were all released in one shot on Netflix. They're all out there, the entire season, plus the previous 5 seasons and the movie. They're all there for you to watch. Obviously, people like me, we went straight for season 6 because we wanted, we've been up to date with the show and we want to know what happened. Now, when the show ended, I would say there were a lot of, it's funny, it's like similar to Lost. Even though the show was done and they answered a lot of questions, I was still like, but wait, what about this? And wait, what about that? And what about, they never answer this, they never answer that. I can honestly say that after watching this 13 episode season, I got about, I would say about 75% of the questions that I was still kind of hanging on, that I didn't, that I was like, well, what happened here?
You could go into Revenge of the Sith now pretty close, to the end of this. You could see it coming, basically.
Yeah. Yes.
In fact, the original Clone Wars cartoon is actually closer, the way that ends, to the beginning.
You jump right into it. Yeah, you jump right into it.
You jump right in. It's almost like the next mission is them jumping into their ships at the way the first one ended.
Exactly. Now, these 13 episodes, they're kind of clumped together into arcs like they've done in the past. In the past, you would have, standalone episodes and arc episodes, multiple episodes that would form a story. Here, we're dealing with 4 arcs. There's the Order 66 arc. There's the Clovis arc, which is also the banking clan arc. There's what I call the Jar Jar arc, because it's a 2-episode Jar Jar special type of story. And then the one that wraps everything up is the Yoda arc. Yoda and the Force, all that stuff. So let's start talking about some of these arcs, in the order that they came. Order 66. One of the biggest, I don't want to say complaints, but like pet peeves that I had was that after watching Revenge of the Sith, I was left with the question, like I'm sure thousands of fans, was Order 66 something that the clones trained and were ready for, if it ever happened, or was it some kind of internal psychological switch that somebody could trigger and all of a sudden they would be almost, incontrollable as to what their actions were going to be at that point? And they've been dodging those questions for years now. I mean, throughout all these years, they've been dodging it. And I'm so happy that finally in this episode, we're giving some actual information to be able to use. Why don't you tell us, James, a little bit about, how the episode gets us to that point?
Well, this Order 66, we've discussed it a couple times. We discussed it in a Clone Trooper, Stormtrooper show we did
That's right.
a while back. We've tried to read up on it and just talking amongst ourselves. What really happened? Is there anybody left in the New Hope era? Is there anybody, do these people just get shipped out, retired? It's more like Blade Runners. I don't think there's retirement, you know what I mean? Or however that goes, I think retirement is death in...
whatever euphemism they use.
Yeah, in the clone world. But I also was concerned about what went on. Was it a secret code word? Was it a chip? Was it just some button that Palpatine had? And it was completely ridiculous that many clones could have some switch. These are basically humans as we know them, so you can't just input a switch and nobody was going to notice it or something. So it turns out it's part of their DNA or an enzyme or something like that.
Right. And I mean, this particular arc, this particular set of episodes, it deals with one specific clone named Topps who apparently malfunctions, kills a Jedi, and then is brought in to be examined to see what went wrong with this clone. And one of the clones that kind of goes with him to keep him company and to kind of keep an eye on him is Fives. And he's one of those original clones from,
yeah, exactly. I guess that was great about that, how it tied it in and brought it full circle, because Fives is one of the original new guys we find right after the Clone Wars movie.
Right.
He's one of the guys who sent...
Was he part of Rookies?
Yeah, and he's one of the guys who he was part of that whole team that wasn't working well together, that almost got washed out. And then we see the old, tired clone kind of giving him a little pep talk and saying, you guys can make it. You're my brothers, and I have faith in you. And they wind up being a great team. The next time we see them, they're kind of on one of their first missions, and he gets his little symbol on his chest because one of the senior clones had blue paint or something on his hands, and put it on his chest, and then you see how his uniform kind of, after years of battle, gets worn down, but yet he still has that hand mark of the 5 fingers. He's an important character. He's as important as Rex or Obi-Wan and Anakin.
For this show, definitely. Now, little by little, as we were watching the series, these original characters, part of this squad, I think part of the rookie squad or that other trained squad, I think they all died, basically. Little by little, we see them, he was like, I think one of the last ones of that.
Yeah, the attrition of war.
Yeah, exactly. So this guy apparently, they're in the middle of a battle, just like a typical Clone War-ish kind of battle, and the guy flips out and kills a Jedi. So he's immediately arrested, and
it's shocking, actually. You can tell this isn't on TV anymore, because I don't know if that actually would have made it, was my opinion when I first saw it. I was actually a little surprised that, wow, he basically targets and kills a Jedi in battle. Right. I guess they call that fragging or something like that in real military or something, right?
Right. But I mean, even for this show, a lot of the manner in which they show you this taking place, the camera kind of pans to the side and you don't actually see, I think, the character being injured. You kind of see it right before and right after, but it's implied and you can make the connection. They try to soften it up a little bit usually on this show. But yeah, it is kind of like shocking that, holy crap, what just happened? This guy just killed an actual Jedi and everybody around him is in shock. The guy doesn't seem to understand what he just did. He's kind of in a haze. So, he's immediately arrested and brought over to Camino to be examined and kind of prodded and tested to see what's going on. And obviously, a lot of people are seeing what just happened, not just the Jedi, the Separatists, I guess through Dooku and some other of his minions, they catch word that, wait, something weird just happened. And so it's like, we better let Sidious know what's going on. So you have your good guys and your bad guys both trying to figure out or trying to see exactly what took place. Now, from Sidious' side, obviously, Palpatine wants to see what happened because this wasn't supposed to happen now at this point. So it's definitely some kind of malfunction that happened to the Order 66 programming, if you will. And through these 4 episodes, it's kind of like an investigation type of thing where, they're trying to medically figure out what's wrong with him. 5 doesn't trust anybody, so he's trying to investigate on his own. He's running around the medical facility, hiding from people, trying to figure out. And by the time it's all said and done, we kind of come to the conclusion, based on what Sidious and some of these other guys are saying, that yeah, this is some kind of, like you mentioned before, like an enzyme or some kind of organic, not a mechanical, but an organic chip that is implanted into these people as part of their production, when they're producing these clones, that malfunctioned and went off and triggered Order 66 all on its own. Now, granted, Order 66 is not supposed to result in, it is supposed to kill the Jedi. It is supposed to tell them to kill Jedi, but it's not supposed to then make that individual clone, act all weird, like he doesn't know what's happening, what just took place. Because from Revenge of the Sith, we saw these guys kill Jedi and then just move on, with their business.
Well, yeah, we see ultimately that they are in battle side by side with the Jedi, and then almost like the switch is hit, as we said, Now we have our new mission just that quickly right on the battlefield. So
right, they're not fighting the Order. They're not reacting like this guy. This guy is having a problem. The way this chip is supposed to work is, okay, here's my next order. All right, guys, let's do it. Boom, boom, boom. We're done. Let's keep going. Blah, blah. This guy was having real problems accepting the Order and then understanding the Order after he did it and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So unfortunately, by the end of the episode, you can kind of tell, the Emperor has him under control now, and he's going to get rid of him, and he ends up getting killed at the end. Obviously, nobody really knowing what the final purpose of this was, other than Palpatine. He knows exactly what's going on, and the Jedi have all been once again tricked, and, even Anakin does not believe what the guy's trying to tell him, what they've been finding out. And, Palpatine is like, don't worry, I'll take care of this evidence, and, I'll look into it, blah, blah, blah. And, he's never going to do a damn thing about it. What's interesting about this episode is that we kind of see how the Kaminoans are in on this. In other words, the lead ones, the chief medical officer.
I don't think they're all in on it. I'm not, no. I wasn't sure it was a complete conspiracy, but I do believe that they had some types of people that were mixed in, like I guess some medical people, and I think other people were a little bit surprised that this was happening and maybe trustworthy, but these people were,
right, because a lot of from what we've seen, and this is based on the few that we actually see meet with Dooku and talking to him through either holograms or in person, that they are in touch, connected to what the problem is going on. They understand what's happening, and normally nobody would be talking to Dooku because he's the bad guy. So the fact that these guys are engaging with Dooku and talking about this malfunction, that makes them guilty, by association right there on the spot. But like I said, the chief medical officer, I guess, and the chief or the main Kaminoan leader there, at least they know what's going on.
They're probably called Kaminoans.
Kaminoans, that's it. They probably, like I said, I'm sure the underlings have no clue what's happening. They're just there doing their job. But the people in charge, they understand what's going on here.
Yeah.
And again, to me, that was great. It was great because we finally get all this information. We also get little bits and pieces of other information that plays a heavier role later in the Yoda arc, having to do with Sifo-Dyas and how the Order was placed and who paid for this and all that stuff that comes on later. Now, the second arc is an arc that I remember when they first aired anything having to do with the Clovis episode. It was kind of, I think it was Senate Spy, I think it was originally. It was kind of like, I don't want to call it a throwaway episode, but it was kind of like a slow episode. Yeah. These
are ones I didn't like. I didn't like this Clovis stuff. I thought this was kind of like soap opera-ish to give Padme some love interest since she couldn't really have a love interest since she was married. It was trying to kind of put a little pressure on it when they first aired this. Put a little pressure on her relationship.
I like the fact that with this Clovis arc, we do get a little more background. Now, granted, if you're not into that sort of thing, obviously it's not going to be very exciting.
Clovis needed a kick in the nuts. He was kind of one of those characters like all hoity-toity. He's kind of like when Fat Albert Gang would have, the rich kids show up in the junkyard or that other kid, and you wanted to just punch him.
Well, he's like a politician, businessman in training kind of thing. He's an up-and-coming executive kind of guy. And this episode shows you a lot of the whole machinations, if you will, of the banking clan and the Nemodians and how these monies are being transferred from place to place without a lot of people knowing where it's coming from and where it's going, and how some of these politicians are not even in control of what they think they're in control, and how easily manipulated they are, and how easily corruptible they are in terms of their ambition and that sort of thing. So I appreciated that.
And how the Emperor, in the form of the Chancellor, is really in charge of stuff. What we saw in the 3 movies, he's the Chancellor and then he's a guy in a cloak. Wait a minute, nobody can notice that? But he's really manipulating stuff. And if you rewatch the whole series, you see there's a lot of things. Oh, let's send Senator Padme, or let's send Jar Jar, Congressman Jar Jar. And he's doing it on purpose to get things, either to stir it up or to get somebody potentially killed. In his mind, he thinks they're going to wind up getting killed.
And they also kind of show, and this is something I kind of picked up not only from the show, but from listening to some of these Filoni interviews that he's been giving, after the show was over. You also kind of start picking up on how the banking clan and all these business entities are kind of dealing with both sides of the coin. They sell to one side.
Isn't that how that's Switzerland, how a lot of these people worked in various different wars? Corporations.
Right. They're like double dipping, and they kind of stay away from the fray, and then they kind of, whoever wins, that's who they deal with afterwards. And how they're able to kind of distance themselves from the conflicts and stay active and continue to make money in the process, without having any repercussions for it.
The fact that it was a mix between a children's show and an adult show, I think had this been more an adult show, you would have seen a lot more examples of how, these are dirty people. These politicians are playing games, and these other worlds, in the form of countries, are playing both sides and trying to, we want to stay out of the conflict, except, they're almost like they're washing money, or they're allowing the separatists to do something, or they're allowing, if they get something out of it, they're allowing the Republic to, dock their ships nearby or something.
Now, one thing that I really loved about this particular arc is that they brought back the character of Embo as the bounty hunter, and he was trying to assassinate.
Well, I hated Embo. I was flabbergasted you loved Embo so much. I thought he was dopey, but it turns out in this exactly right. In this, he was great. He was really perfect in this one.
There's this whole assassination sequence where he gets away and he's like snowboarding on his helmet, on his hat, down a mountain, which was excellent. I loved it. And he's got that dog and everything.
Here's something that bugged me, and most people don't follow this. I follow it probably a little too closely. I like to know the voices. I like to know who the people are, who's doing what, why they might have changed somebody, Fred Flintstone's voice, who he really was, why they changed him. Well, the guy died. That's why Alan Reed died. But down the line, a lot of times they'll keep a voice throughout it. And they did use a lot of voices in this series that were original people who they could afford, Ahmed Best and Anthony Daniels and a couple other ones. This one, it turns out Mr. Pitt, Ian Abercrombie, was the voice of the Chancellor for much of the, if not all, the rest of the seasons. However, he had died, and they had switched over, I guess, towards the end of the 5th season to Tim Curry, which to most people, once again, you would not notice. Tim Curry did a nice job, except I notice because I look for those things. And Ian Abercrombie was almost a perfect, pitch perfect copy of Ian McDermott. So I heard something different, and I said, this is a Tim Curry episode. I'm sure of it. Of course, after the episode ended, I went to the credits. It was back to Ian Abercrombie.
Exactly.
And so I was like, well, I said to you, what happened here? And you explained that this was just out of order. This was a season 5 episode that got pushed around because of various scheduling conflicts. And, it happens a lot of times with shows that are on Sunday night, like the cartoon with Bender. What was that?
Futurama.
Yeah, Futurama got canceled and wound up having like 3 seasons to go because they had so many episodes that got bumped because of NFL football and various, specials and breaking news and stuff like that. So anyway, in this particular case, so I don't sound crazy, Ian Abercrombie shows up again, and I wondered how that was possible. And you said that was an episode that was supposed to air early in the 5th season probably, and it just happened to, get pushed back with this group.
Yeah, and like you said, like we talked about earlier, yeah, this was supposed to have aired the previous season, and it was, it's an arc. It's a couple of episodes. It wasn't just one, so they had to sit on this.
It wasn't weird or anything in terms of like, hey, wait a minute, why are they doing that? And they did these kind of things anyway. If they wanted to, they aired out of order all the time, and you have to now, there's a master list if you want to watch them in the somewhat proper order.
Yeah. So this now brings us to the 3rd arc, which is the shortest of all of them, I believe.
Jar Jar Jones and the Temple of whatever.
Yeah, that's what I texted you while I was watching it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God.
Another Fred did as well.
This particular arc is an homage to the Raiders films. It was incredible. There were so many things, the weird.
The opening, and there's a gong in it. And I instantly thought of Temple of Doom.
The chase through the marketplace, the cult that's sacrificing these people that looks like to a volcano or something. And it's like, it was enjoyable. It was definitely the light part of this, if you want to call it a season. The previous 2 arcs, like you said before, they're kind of dark and adultish.
Yeah, they were kind of heavy.
This one was definitely lighter because it's Jar Jar, but it was still kind of creepy. It was Temple of Doomish creepy.
But I liked it. And I know, I've said this before, Jar Jar could be one of the worst introductions of a character into a very successful franchise, but he had a purpose. It turns out kids still love him. And in the live action movies, he's like fingers on a chalkboard. In the cartoons, I thought he was perfect. And especially there was most of the episodes had Ahmed Best. I think there was only 1 or 2 that did not. And it turns out the Bombad Jedi episode and a couple other episodes, he is really perfect in the cartoon. He fits just right. And in this episode, the same thing. You don't hate him. You actually are rooting for him. And you're actually a little more annoyed by Mace Windu.
Obviously, they pair him up with like one of the most serious characters around, to kind of play off of him. He's the straight man and Jar Jar is the fool, as usual. But again, those were enjoyable, episodes. I didn't dislike Jar Jar as much as I usually do. I really liked, and again, the fact that they were doing so many, what I think were homages to Raiders, I loved it even more. Okay, now this brings us to the last of the arcs for this season, and what's basically called the Yoda arc, which
I think this was one of the most serious arcs of the whole series.
Yeah.
The only thing that might have been more serious is that one weird episode with the mysticism and that weird stuff going on with basically the light and the dark side of the Force being personified. And this was the closest thing to that we could get.
Yeah, the main theme here, or the main plot is Yoda is investigating, or somehow they find the remains or clues to whatever happened to Master Sifo-Dyas,
And that always has bugged me. We've talked about this. I wanted to know, was it a mistake? And then they had to just deal with it somehow, because originally in the script, I read one of the original scripts, it was Sifo-Dyas. And I thought that was kind of like an anagram or whatever you want to call it, or, whatever the word
Sidious.
is. Of Sidious. And I'm like, wow, is there something there? Is he like, some kind of faker in another way? And then they changed it to Sifo-Dyas when the movie came out, and it was a throwaway line almost. And I really wanted to know who this Sifo-Dyas was. What did he look like? Was he a real Jedi, or is this just some BS that they're trying to cover for a mistake, a script mistake?
Now, in the movie, the way that we learn his name is because he is the name that's dropped by the Kaminoans as the person that ordered the clones being built. And then that Jedi mysteriously disappeared or died, so there's nobody that could interrogate him and say, well, how did you know that we were going to need these clones and everything? So it's one of these mysteries that kept popping and there was no answer for, and this is what they try to do at this point. And through certain investigations that lead Yoda to an even bigger discovery, is what we learn is that basically Sifo-Dyas was an existing Jedi. Everybody knows him. The Jedi understand who he was. He was missing, disappeared. He went on a mission by Chancellor Valorum to, investigate something. And while this is all happening, this is years before anything, having to do with the Clone Wars, he is becoming disillusioned, similar to Dooku, who at the time was part of the Jedi Council. He hadn't yet turned. He was still there, but they were basically a pair of disillusioned Jedi. Sifo-Dyas was more disillusioned, but still liked what the Jedi were all about. Dooku was disillusioned and angry, disgruntled at the Jedi, and obviously they went in two different directions. Well, Darth Sidious basically ended up using Sifo-Dyas through Dooku, kind of pushing him and nudging him into listen, something big and bad is coming and we got to get ready for it.
Yeah, because even in Attack of the Clones, he even says, I was hired by a man named Tyrannus, which was, Darth Tyrannus.
Right. And Darth Tyrannus, who is basically Dooku, prods him to order the construction of the clones, to begin this construction. And the way that apparently it worked out, not so much from the show, I think, but also from these Filoni interviews that I've heard, is that Dooku tells them, listen, you just go there and start placing the order. Start getting things ready. I'll take care of the money. Now, they're both Jedi, so they both trust each other, but they don't trust the whole Jedi community as a whole, so they're kind of keeping it on the down low. Now, the order is being placed by Sifo-Dyas. The Kaminoans are getting money because obviously if these guys don't get money, nothing is going to get built. And that was one of these big mysteries of, wait a minute, if the Jedi don't know about this being built, who the hell's paying for it? And why are these guys working for free? And they're not working for free. They're being paid, but guess where the money's coming from? The money's coming from Darth Sidious through his Dooku connections, who eventually turned into separatists. So that's where the money came from. Now, as soon as the whole machine started turning and producing and making things, they had to get rid of Sifo-Dyas because they obviously didn't want this guy talking. So that's basically how we lose Sifo-Dyas and how he factored into being the person that actually ordered the construction of the clones without the Jedi Council or the Republic ever knowing about it. He was prodded by Dooku through Sidious. Now, while all this investigation is taking place, Yoda is getting, these weird feelings and this and that, and he's hearing voices, and it brings us to this whole Qui-Gon Jinn connection. Why don't you tell us a little about that?
What they teased us with in that weird episode, that mystical episode, that Anakin heard Qui-Gon, and they just wrote it off as, it was your mind playing tricks on you because of all the mysticism going on that world.
Right. And in this particular episode, Yoda, they're kind of looking at him like they think he's kind of losing his little mind at first, because he's kind of old and he's hearing voices and nobody else is hearing those voices. So he kind of has to plot this little scheme with Anakin's help to help him escape, without being seen, so he can go on this secret mission of his own without anybody knowing. And through this secret mission, he gets to visit a couple of memorable places that we're familiar with, like Dagobah, for example.
Which was fantastic. That was the best, being able to get that little bit of, you can call it an Easter egg or whatever. Because it did always make me wonder, something about feeling like I've been here before. Yeah, I know what you mean, or something like that. And it's like, well, what could they possibly mean? Were they there or not? Why would they have been there? Was Luke hidden there or something? And it turned
Luke was
out
definitely not there. But
but you didn't know at the time. You didn't know if somehow they hid Luke there as a boy or something, as a baby. But it turned out, no, R2 was there.
Right. That's if you believe that R2's mind wasn't wiped.
Well, I do believe that, because that's who's supposed to be telling the whole story.
He's the keeper of the secrets.
We do know that C-3PO was wiped at least once. I believe R2 was not ever.
Well, R2 then knows where all the bodies are hidden, basically.
Well, exactly.
So while at Dagobah, he does manage to be able to start communicating with Qui-Gon, and the whole foundation for the being able to communicate with the deceased Jedi who are part of the Force, which we learn about in Revenge of the Sith at the end, when he tells Obi-Wan, hey, guess what I just found out how to do? So here's where it gives us that, and he has to perform this task. There are these, I guess you can call them like Jedi or Force-related ghost creatures that perform these tests that Yoda has to perform in order to see if he's, a good Jedi or a light Force user or whatever. And one of the weirdest things that we get to see is that Yoda has to resist temptation and that kind of stuff. And in one of these crazy, almost like LSD hallucination type of situations that he's in, he actually starts to see these images of Order 66. He sees Jedis being executed left and right, and I think he even sees Anakin doing some crazy stuff here or there. I guess it's hard for him to understand what's happening.
I think some images of the younglings, things happening to the younglings pop up, and
you see Shaak Ti being impaled through the back, which is funny because
that was kind of that was another heavy arc. You know, that's what made it feel like these were the adult episodes, even though there was nothing dirty going on. They were just a little heavier.
What's funny is that showing us Shaak Ti impaled through the back is something that was never shown in Revenge of the Sith. However, there are deleted scenes.
There was deleted scenes of it.
Where there was two different manners that she was going to die. One was by Anakin impaling her, and the other one was by Grievous impaling her. So it's funny how they used an image without telling you who was the person actually doing the impaling. But yeah, he gets all these images, and then at one point he has to go to the Sith ruined temple where all of a sudden he meets Darth Bane, which we find out after the fact, when we watch the credit roll afterwards, was played by Mark Hamill, which was like, holy crap, that's so cool that he
does voices, so it's not shocking, but it was a nice little addition.
And, you know, we finally got Mark Hamill in the show in a weird, creepy way. And again, from one of these interviews with Filoni, he mentioned that they recorded Mark Hamill doing the voice in multiple different fashions so that they could take then one or two of them and play them at the same time. So his voice sounds even weirder because he has like two different tones to his voice. And he plays, I guess, one of the, you know, Bane is supposed to be like one of the creators of the laws of the Sith and yada, yada, yada. So he's a big baddie that he's fighting against, you know, his ghost. It's not really fighting him. And you know, Yoda comes out of this whole thing. He makes it, you know, he's able to escape and he is, you know, I guess worthy of the Force and yada, yada, yada. But he also comes home with this heavy burden on his shoulders that something really big and bad is coming. And he really doesn't seem to have much control over it.
And it explains how he gets that gift, that ability to go further as a ghost, the Force ghost, and the communication from beyond. He implores Obi-Wan to study that in his exile, and that gives them a leg up in a way on their enemies.
Now, as soon as I saw these episodes, and it's like I said, it's only 13 episodes of 22 minutes apiece, you know, I was ecstatic. I loved them. To me, this was and again, I'm not sure if I'm saying this because of the fact that we haven't seen something in so long and we knew for a fact this was the end and we were not going to see any more of this. But to me, this felt like the best they've ever put out of just about everything of all of this entire series. Part of it is because they answer so many questions that I was wondering about. There's still, don't get me wrong, there's still a lot of questions I don't know about. You know, what exactly happens to Ahsoka? What happens to Captain Rex? You know, does he just, you know, does Order 66, does he just play along with it? You know, are there any clones that somehow either malfunction or are able to resist the Order? We don't know.
Don't you think there's a chance with Captain Rex that since Filoni's participant in it, that there's a chance between Ahsoka and Captain Rex, they appear somewhere in Rebels down the line?
Of course.
That's what I'm expecting, those two guys, because Captain Rex was a big deal, and obviously Ahsoka was a main character.
And Filoni has said that, you know, they outright ask him, you know, is there any chance that some characters will show up on Rebels? And he's kind of like, he's like, well, I'm not going to say no. I think he said something. He was dodging the question, but he was trying not to say no. He wasn't going to say yes, but he also didn't want to say no. So there's a chance that some stuff might kind of trickle into this new show that's coming, you know, in the future.
But this run, and several people, you, one of my friends, I've heard people say, you couldn't stop watching it. You couldn't you couldn't put it down, basically, like a good book. And I know you went through it in probably like a day and a half. My buddy watched it, I think, all of them in one overnight sitting. He didn't even go to bed till like 5 or 6 in the morning the next day. And I tried to stretch it out because I knew you guys raved about it, but I just didn't want it to end in one day. So I forced myself to take breaks and do it over a weekend, but it was that good.
Well, I was watching it with my son, so we couldn't do a marathon. We broke it up into 2 days, which was good. It was 2 arcs per day, and it was great. And I was like, it was just great. It was just great. Like I said, you know, don't get me wrong. There's still some unanswered questions that they didn't go and answer, and hopefully that's something they'll address in the future.
But it's sad that it's not coming back. It's done, and I guess their pushing of Rebels, that's the thing now. That's what they're selling. And it's disappointing that that's how it works, because if it's something so popular, you almost wish they would say, look, Netflix was into it. They got a lot of viewership or however they rank it. And, somehow they can make a deal. There must be some good stories, but it's done, I guess, like you said, because Filoni has moved on with Rebels. He's not coming back to this, probably contractually. You said Disney is
I don't think Disney wants to deal with
prequel
it,
stuff. At least in the short term, they're done with prequel stuff. If there's a renaissance and fans start saying, hey, they weren't so bad, maybe they can add characters, like you said, like Ahsoka and Rex and Jar Jar into somehow. Because Jar Jar didn't die either at the end of Sith.
No.
So maybe they stick him in a cameo somewhere,
Right. Speaking of possible future story continuations, it's funny, while I was watching the Yoda arc, as we were getting close to the end, after we've seen all these visions that he was having of what could happen in the future, remember the future is not always set, I kept thinking to myself, what Yoda needs to do at this point, which would be perfect because it would also explain any possible future deviations from the story. What Yoda needed to do at that point is say, all right, here's what I need. I need an insurance policy. We might win this war, we might come out victorious, but I need to set up some kind of insurance that if things go south, I have at least some people scattered, in the galaxy in hiding, in case everything goes to pot. And that's what I wish, Yoda would have said, all right.
So he doesn't say that, but you're thinking at some point he could have, I don't like to use manipulating because that sounds negative, and Jedi are not supposed to do any of that kind of negative stuff, as we all know. But maybe he did allow Ahsoka to be kicked out of the Order to save her.
To save her.
And maybe he did find a way. He kind of left by the seat of his pants, too. So at that point, everything's going nuts. Rex wasn't in Revenge of the Sith,
no,
as far as we know, as a proper character. So we don't know if that's something. And Jar Jar, we do know, went on, I guess, to serve the Imperial Congress. Well, he was a congressman. Senate. He was a representative, not a senator. But, one would assume he was participating into the future.
Right. The only order that we know for sure, based on the movie canon, obviously, from Revenge of the Sith, is that Yoda orders either Obi-Wan or Bail Organa to transmit a signal to the Jedi that are approaching Coruscant to
stay
turn
away.
back, get the hell out of here, everything's going crazy, hide, basically. That's the only warning, I guess, that we get. But I think it would be cool if Yoda does this little side thing where it's like, you know what? Nobody knows about this. I'm doing this on my own, just like he's the only one that knows about Dagobah. I'm doing this on my own. Take a couple of Padawans and reassign them to a planet that they've never been to, or hide some people and tell them to just wait. Just go out there, wait, don't talk to anybody. Just wait until you hear back from me. That kind of an action. That would have been cool.
I don't think there was anybody who knew, besides Yoda, where Yoda was going. And the fact that now we know how he found out about Dagobah, that would be the perfect place for him. Like, everybody used to think, is Dagobah the home world for his people? Because he does look green and he could be on that kind of watery planet. But it turns out it probably wasn't his home world. It's probably because of this episode.
Right, and it's a Force-sensitive world, basically. It's a Force-rich world. And that's probably why Luke also feels like he's familiar. It's not because he's been there. It's because it's the Force that's, reacting to him, and he's reacting to it. But again, overall, loved it. I wish there was more, but unfortunately there's not. And yes, hopefully in the future, not only some of these characters hopefully might show up one day, but some of these storylines we might get some little bits and pieces of, oh, there we go. That makes sense now. That's why they did this or that. So, I'm very happy with it. I believe you are too.
Going forward, you have high hopes for Rebels. I know you're looking forward to it. I'm a little more skeptical because of just the way they're presenting it. And I have a habit of letting that happen to me, but it feels like they're presenting it a little all too perfect. Each character kind of fits a mold the way they make modern entertainment, the sassy urban kind of character and the crazy alien friend and, or wacky neighbor type of thing. And they're kind of presenting these archetypes in this world. So that kind of bugs me a little bit. But if they can keep it somewhat serious, even though, it's a cartoon, how serious can it be? Right. But then I'll believe it. But for now, I have my reservations.
Yeah, like I said, I'll wait till I see something. I like the art. I'm very happy with what I've seen so far, the tidbits. But, we'll see. We still have time. And in the meantime, hopefully this will be released in Blu-ray at some point, because at that point we might get a little something extra in terms of more behind-the-scenes stuff, maybe some director cuts.
I believe it will. I think Netflix has to have a decent run at it. But
Yes.
I don't see any reason why they would not put something like this out on Blu-ray. It makes the money. Or it'll be part of a all 6-season super box set, so you have to buy them all, whereas guys like you have already bought, most of the stuff.
Yeah.
This will be the way to get you to buy it all.
No kidding. Well, anyway, James, I want to thank you for joining me today, and I hope everybody enjoyed today's show. As usual, we will continue with more information as it comes. We'll probably, at one point, do a general Clone Wars wrap-up of the entire series, not just this season. And as Rebels approaches, and as, obviously, the new films approach, we're going to most likely hit them, one by one. So until next time, on behalf of everybody here, thank you for watching Geekfest Rants. See you here soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yoda.
Hear you, I do. Who are you? My imagination, it must be.
No. It is I, Qui-Gon Jinn.
That cannot be. Dead you are.
No. I am part of the living force, Yoda.
Impossible.
Oh dear. Shoo, ghastly beast.
Chewbacca can do it.